He didn't even call me. After everything, after the deployments, the surgeries, the years I spent dodging bullets and burying brothers in arms, I opened my phone and there it was, one message from my father. "Don't bother coming this Christmas. We decided it's best you stay away this year. No, how are you? No, we miss you." Just a flat text that read like a severance notice from the people who were supposed to love me without conditions. My name is Rachel Monroe, and wherever you're watching from, I hope you'll stick around. Because have you ever walked through hell only to come home and find your family would rather keep the door locked? The military taught me how to shut my feelings off, but that text, it hit harder than a mortar blast. My mom didn't chime in. My brother didn't say a word. It was like they'd all quietly agreed to cut me off. Right before the holidays, I sat there in my little one-bedroom apartment in Fagville, staring at the blinking Christmas lights I'd taped to the window, trying to figure out what I did to deserve this kind of cold. I typed one word back, "Fine," and I meant it, not the kind of fine you say through gritted teeth, hoping someone will dig deeper. No, this was final, the kind of fine that means you don't get another shot at hurting me. I shut my laptop, deleted the airline ticket I'd bought weeks ago, and poured myself a glass of red wine. I raised it to the empty air, to family. 5 days later, I woke up to 10 missed calls, 1 from my brother, 1 from my dad, 4 from my mom, and 1 from their lawyer. That last one was the one that made my heart stop for a beat, because by then, it was too late. Too late to unsay what they'd said. Too late to undo what I'd already set in motion. Too late to unwrite the letter I'd sent. They thought I'd come back like I always did, loyal, forgiving, desperate for crumbs of love. But this time was different. I wasn't the same girl who left. I'd come home wearing a new kind of armor, and they were about to learn exactly how dangerous a daughter can be when she finally stops begging for her father's approval. Let me rewind a bit. Back before the silence, before that text, before everything cracked wide open, I was 18 when I enlisted. My father didn't hug me at graduation. He just said, "Try not to embarrass yourself out there." That was his version of love. Criticism dressed up as advice. But I didn't join to make him proud. I joined because I needed to believe I was worth something. Because home never felt safe. Not with the way he looked at me, like I was a burden he hadn't signed up for. When I made Sergeant, I flew home that Christmas, hoping for some tiny acknowledgement. He asked me to shovel the driveway before I even took off my boots. No congratulations. No, we're proud of you. Just grab a coat. Mom, she was a ghost of the mother I needed, always wringing her hands, whispering, "Just don't make him angry." And my brother Tyler, he shadowed Dad, learned early that siding with him meant peace. So I played the good soldier. I called on every birthday, sent flowers for anniversaries, mailed checks when the roof leaked or the car broke down. They never once asked where the money came from, never asked what it cost me. Just cashed it, sometimes sent an emoji back, sometimes not even that. Still, every year, I hoped for one Christmas where I'd walk through the door and feel like I belonged. One holiday where my seat at the table wasn't an obligation but a welcome. But that year, this year, I had different plans. I was finally done with service. I had my discharge papers, a modest pension, and a heart that was flat out exhausted. I wanted to come home, bake cookies with Mom, hear Tyler ramble about his new job, maybe, just maybe, get a pat on the back from Dad. Instead, I got that text, so I set a different plan in motion. Because 5 years ago, during one of my rare leaves, Dad asked me to co-sign something for the house, a second mortgage. I was barely 25. He called it a formality, a technicality. I was young, worn out, starved for his approval, so I signed without reading. Big mistake, for them. because it turns out that signature meant I owned 51% of their house. They didn't know that yet, but they would very soon. The irony, I'd completely forgotten about that mortgage. It wasn't until after Dad's text, after it detonated something cold inside me, that I went digging through old military email archives, looking for a distraction, and there it was. A digital copy of the co-signed document, flagged as executed, signed by him, signed by me, stamped, witnessed, airtight. I clicked through it again, slower this time, and there, buried in legal jargon, it whispered something I hadn't seen before. In the event of primary borrower default or voluntary transfer, the co-signer assumes controlling interest over the property until full loan maturity. Controlling interest. I sat back, stunned. While he'd been so busy cutting me off, he forgot that on paper, I wasn't just his daughter. I was his co-owner. No, scratch that. I was the majority owner. He needed my signature for that refinance 5 years ago because of his tanked credit, and I signed, thinking it meant he wanted me, needed me, that it meant I mattered. Now, it meant I owned his pride and joy, the house he always bragged about, the same house he told me I wasn't welcome in. Oh, the poetic justice was so thick I could taste it. That night, I called a lawyer, a real estate specialist I'd met on base during a seminar in Tampa. Hypothetically, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral, what happens if a co-signer holds majority interest and the borrower decides to tell her not to come home anymore? There was a pause on the other end, then a soft chuckle. They probably shouldn't have done that, he said, because if she wants to take control of the property, she can. I didn't tell my family anything. I didn't give them the courtesy of a warning. Instead, I drafted a letter. It wasn't dramatic. It was clear, direct, and dripping with polite legal force. Effective immediately, I will be exercising my controlling interest as co-signer and legal partial owner of the property located at 12 Windmere Lane. All legal rights and responsibilities will be enacted through counsel. You will be contacted shortly. I mailed it certified. Old school. Intentional. Let them open it together. Let them feel it hit all at once. Then I booked myself a quiet cabin in the Smoky Mountains for Christmas. Snow falling. Fire crackling. Phone off. 5 days later, I turned my phone back on. 10 missed calls. One from a lawyer. I smiled not out of revenge, but from a strange sense of clarity. For the first time in my life, I didn't need their permission to come home. I was home. Because they were living in a house that legally belonged to me. Tyler called first. Rach, what the hell is this? Dad's freaking out. He's talking about lawyers and eviction notices. What are you doing? I took a calm sip of my coffee, staring at the snowy hills outside my cabin. I'm executing my rights, I said, same way Dad executed his decision to tell me not to come home. You're seriously gonna kick them out over a text? Over something stupid like that? No, Tyler, I'm not kicking them out. Yet, I let that hang. He sputtered. Come on, this is Dad. You know how he is. Yes, I do, I said, voice steady. That's exactly why I'm doing this. Because sometimes the people who hurt you most count on you never fighting back. They rely on your silence, your hunger for crumbs. But I don't need crumbs anymore. I have a contract. And for the first time in my life, I have power. The next call came from their lawyer, Harold Wells. He tried to sound relaxed, but I could hear the tight panic wound up in his words. Ms. Monroe, I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. Your letter arrived rather abruptly and understandably caused a bit of alarm. There's no misunderstanding. Mr. Wells, I interrupted. The documents are valid. I have the originals. I've reviewed the terms with my counsel. I'm now invoking control. a quiet beat. Then, well, I'm sure we can work something out. Perhaps a buyout, a reassignment of the note. And that's when it really clicked for me. They were scared. Because Dad had probably defaulted again, missed payments, thought the bank would keep working with him. But now he was staring down the barrel of a nightmare he never expected. I leaned back, enjoying every second of the snowy view outside my cabin. I'm open to discussion, but my first condition is that he calls me himself, not through you, not through Tyler. I want him to ask. Silence. Harold knew exactly what I was doing. This wasn't about the house. This was about acknowledgement, about making Dad say my name. I hung up, looked around the cozy cabin, no tree, no stockings, no cinnamon or ham in the oven. But it was peaceful, and that peace, I earned it, with scars, with sacrifice, with years of silence. They didn't know it yet, but I was done being the soldier daughter they could ignore. Now I was the landlord, and Christmas was about to get very uncomfortable back home. Christmas morning, I woke up to another call. This time, it was Mom. Her voice was trembling, thin and shaky like a cracked teacup. "Rachel," she whispered, "please don't do this. Your father is furious. He hasn't slept. Tyler's barely speaking. Can't we just move past it? Move past it." I almost laughed. "Mom, do you remember what he texted me?" Silence. "He told me not to come home for Christmas. Not this year. Not ever. Said I wasn't welcome anymore." Do you know what that does to someone who's been deployed for nearly a decade? Who sent checks from war zones? Who never missed a birthday call or card? Still silence. I was in a desert on my 26th birthday. "Mom, we got ambushed on the road outside Kabul when I called you after I made it out alive. Do you remember what you said?" "I don't," she whispered. "You said, 'Well, I'm glad you're safe, but don't talk about that around your father. It makes him anxious.' Esu." And there it was. The ugly truth that had always lived between us. I was never their daughter. I was an inconvenience, a ghost they tolerated only when I stayed invisible. "Mom," I said softly, "I'm not doing this out of anger. I'm doing this because I finally understand. I was never going to be welcomed back unless I brought something to the table." She sobbed, raw, helpless sobs, begged me to reconsider. But I didn't bend. Not this time. Because what they didn't know was that I'd already filed the legal paperwork of formal notice of possession change. It was scheduled for delivery that very afternoon. And the best part, I'd hired a property management company run by a veteran buddy from base to handle everything. They were showing up the next day for an inspection, not to kick anyone out yet, just to make it clear this wasn't their house anymore. That afternoon, I sat by the fireplace in my cabin, wrapped in a thick sweater, watching the flames dance. No gifts, no family, just peace, justice, and something even sweeter than any carol, control. Around 4 p.m. that day, my property manager called. "Hey, Rach, we did the walkthrough. Your folks weren't exactly thrilled to see us, but we kept it civil, just like you said. How bad is it?" I asked. He exhaled into the phone. "Cosmetically, not terrible. Structurally, leaks in the basement, unfinished attic renovations, mold spots under a couple windows. And get this, 2 of the 3 bedrooms have tenants, college kids, sublets, probably cash deals. No paperwork." I froze. They'd rented out rooms in my house, turned it into a side hustle behind my back, all while texting me that I wasn't welcome. My stomach didn't twist from anger, it twisted from sheer insult. They'd used my name to secure the house, made money off it, and then told me to stay away, like I was some stray dog scratching at their door. That night, I drafted a second letter. This one wasn't gentle. Effective January 2nd. You are hereby given formal 30-day notice of management transition and possible termination of residency. Your subleases are illegal. Rent collection is suspended. This property is now under formal investigation for code violations. All communication will go through legal counsel. I signed it with my full name and rank. Rachel Monroe, Sergeant First Class, U.S. Army retired, legal co-owner, 12 Winmere Lane. I sent it certified to Harold, their lawyer. Then I sent Tyler a text with just 3 words, check your mailbox. Within an hour, my phone blew up again. Voicemails, pleading, panic. Even from Dad, I didn't listen to a single one. Because every soldier knows the feeling the second your boot hits solid ground and you realize you survived. In that silence, there's power. That's what I felt now. They could scream. They could cry. They could beg. But I had survived them, and now they were living in my house under my rules. Come January, they'd learn what it felt like to be unwelcome, not out of spite, but because I didn't need a seat at their table anymore. I owned the entire damn dining room. January 2nd came like a slap of cold air. The sky was heavy with snow. The driveway of 12 Winmere Lane was cluttered with 3 cars, 2 of which I didn't even recognize. I didn't show up alone. I brought my property manager, a locksmith, and a clipboard stacked with documentation. I wore a dark coat, my boots polished, and my army dog tags resting against my chest. Dad opened the door, face flushed and sweaty despite the frigid air. Rachel, what the hell is this circus? He barked. I didn't answer right away. I walked right past him. My house, my terms. Mom appeared at the base of the stairs, clutching a rosary like it was a prop. Tyler sat slumped on the couch, pale, defeated. Couldn't even look at me. I cleared my throat. This is a legal transition of ownership and management. As of this morning, all rights tied to this house fall under my direct control. You have 30 days to decide, formalize your tenancy under my contract, or relocate. Dad's face twisted. Relocate. You can't do this. This is our home. So no, I said evenly. It's my investment. He snarled. I built this place, and you defaulted on it. I shot back, then signed it over to a 24-year-old in uniform because your credit was garbage, just so you could keep your reputation intact. That shut him up. I looked around the living room. The mantel where my boot camp photo once stood was empty now, like they'd erased me completely. I pressed on. The illegal tenants have been notified. If they're not gone in 10 days, I'll file for trespassing, and if anyone tries to intimidate, damage, or interfere with this process, I'll pursue criminal charges. Mom's lips trembled. But where will we go? I met her eyes without blinking. I don't know, Mom. Maybe not home for Christmas. She burst into tears. Tyler stood up like he might say something, maybe even an apology, but I raised a hand. Don't. I needed words from you 10 years ago. Now I need boundaries. The locksmith changed the code on the front door as we left. Snow crunched under my boots. The air was clean. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a daughter. I felt like a woman who came back stronger than they ever expected. They'd probably call it cold. I called it survival. The final notice expired on January 31st. They didn't fight it. No last-minute calls. No dramatic driveway confrontations. Just silence, the kind that sets in when people realize you're not bluffing anymore. I showed up the next morning with a new key in hand. The house was empty. No note, no goodbye. Just hollow echoes as I walked from room to room. In Tyler's old room, I found a duffel bag with a tag from some ski trip I'd never been invited to. In the living room, a deep scratch in the floor where the coffee table once sat. The one I'd bought at 19 with my first deployment check that they'd always called a loan. I stared at that scar in the wood for a long time. Not angry, just aware of how deep damage can run when no one bothers to notice you're bleeding. I didn't cry. I opened the back door, let the cold wind whip through the house, and stood there with the winter sun on my face. This wasn't revenge. It was restoration of boundaries, of dignity, of my name, the one they'd tried to erase from their family story. I turned the place into transitional housing for female veterans, young women with stories like mine, stories of coming home, only to face rejection and clawing their way back to who they were beyond the uniform. We called it the Monroe House. When local reporters came sniffing around, some curious piece about a veteran reclaiming her family home, I didn't give them the whole story. Because it wasn't about humiliating my parents, it was about healing me. People still ask me, was it worth it? I just smile. More than they'll ever understand. I don't visit my family. They don't call me. But every Christmas now, I light a candle on the porch. Not for them, for me, for the girl who once stood in the snow outside this house, heart full of hope, only to be turned away. She finally came back, and she made damn sure no woman like her would ever have to stand alone again.